Want to get more out of your heavy-duty repair shop? Fullbay's shop efficiency software is here to make it happen. Track tech efficiency and see who's working on what and how long it's taking. Schedule preventive maintenance to ensure your customers' trucks are getting the service they need when they need it. You can also see what's going on with your inventory and how much you're spending on parts versus what you're bringing in. For more information, head to fullbay.com/transport. From Washington, D.C., this is RoadSigns, with your host, Seth Clevenger.
Thank you for listening to RoadSigns, the podcast series from Transport Topics that explores the trends and technologies that are shaping the future of trucking. In this episode, we're going to take you back to Intermodal Expo 2025, hosted in September by the Intermodal Association of North America. At the show, I caught up with Jeremy Sanders and Pat Gunn of Stoughton Trailers to discuss the future of intermodal equipment. During the expo, Stoughton launched a new 53-foot domestic container and showcased its next-generation smart chassis with enhanced connectivity features and even automated coupling with the yard tractor. But what do those innovations reveal about the evolution of intermodal containers and chassis? We'll set out to answer that question in this episode. But before we begin, I'd like to invite you to keep up to date on this topic and other important industry issues by subscribing to Transport Topics at ttn.ws/ttsubscribe. You can also text TTSubscribe to 571-622-0001. And now, without any further delay, let's play my conversation with Stoughton. We're here in Long Beach, California at IANA's 2025 Intermodal Expo, and I'm very excited to sit down with two executives at Stoughton Trailers, Chief Commercial Officer Jeremy Sanders and Pat Gunn, Director of Intermodal Sales. Welcome to the podcast, gentlemen.
Good morning. Good morning.
So Stoughton, of course, is best known for trailers as well as intermodal chassis, but the company is now re-entering the container market with a new 53-foot domestic intermodal container. So that was big news that you guys revealed here at IANA, and you have the, of course, equipment on display in the exhibit hall. So just tell us about Stoughton's history of manufacturing containers, and why is now the right time to get back into that market?
Yeah, sounds good, Seth. So Stoughton actually has a rich history in the intermodal space in total. From a container standpoint, we've produced over 60,000 from the late 80s into the mid kind of 2000s. We got out of that space. It became kind of uncompetitive, hard to compete. We've always had an eye on it. We've always had the capability. Our manufacturing setup still exists in a way that we can produce that product. And with the recent trade events, we've had a lot of customers kind of coming to us looking for a domestic source. So we've been kind of looking at the landscape, knowing that we had the capability, and we kind of felt like now was the right time to reintroduce that product. We'll see what the future holds, but we actually have three different domestic 53-foot containers that we can commercialize. Here at IANA, we showed a new model, so to speak, but it's really part of our DNA if you look back at our history, and we're proud to show that new model here this year.
Great. Anything to add to that, Pat?
Nope, I think that covers it.
Yeah, and of course, this container, as you mentioned, built in Wisconsin at your Stoughton plant. U.S. sourced materials, U.S. steel and aluminum. You mentioned that obviously the changes, the tariffs, and changes in trade policy, very much a moving target right now, changing almost on a daily basis. But what's your understanding of what that means for pricing and the competitive landscape for Stoughton as you enter again this container market? Especially as we see higher tariffs on imports going into effect?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one of the pieces of voice of customer that at least I'm finding very interesting is with the uncertainty. I think the uncertainty is the big riddle here for everyone. Having a domestic source, which really doesn't exist today, is important. And even if customers have to pay more money for a domestically sourced, delivered sooner container, I think there's at least a smaller niche market for that. So I do think that will be a knock-on effect of whatever happens with the tariff and trade environment. In terms of pricing, look, we know that the price for said containers prior to all of the tariff or potential tariffs is something that the domestic market couldn't compete with, and that's frankly why we got out. So we're looking at pricing this appropriately in the market. It may become a niche product. It may not. We're just not sure, right? The uncertainty is the hardest thing for us to anyone to put a finger on. But we want to make a container that's going to stand up to the rigor of the intermodal space. These things are long-lived assets. They travel back and forth left and right. So we're more focused on quality. We're more focused on product durability. And we're more focused on, for the customer that needs a domestic source, we want to be that domestic source. How this tariff environment shakes out is still unknown. But we're kind of telling the world at this show that we have the capability, we have the product, and if you need that, come see Stoke.
Yeah, great to have that option in the marketplace. And I'd like to talk more about the product itself, the new container that you introduced here. This is one of the takeaways and one of the more interesting points from the presentation in my mind was this a little bit extra interior width inside the container. This actually translates to about a 6% increase in capacity, and that can add up. So if you gentlemen could just tell me a little bit, why can that make a real difference in terms of efficiency for intermodal operations? Why fight for every last inch of space in that interior width? How much of a difference can that potentially make in this industry?
It gives you the opportunity to use a bigger pallet and get additional pallets in if you pinwheel them, bring them in the long 51-inch. Yep. Then turn the next 42. You'll pick up about 3 pallets in floor space. So if you're a commodity like cans or things where that floor space is important, that will add up. If you're into the market where the cubic capacity on the inside is important, it picks up a little more than the 6% that we had talked about.
Yeah,
okay.
I think the interesting point as well is think about the life cycle of this product and the use case that will vary over time. So sometimes that space is not so important depending on what's being hauled because of weight. Sometimes it's very important. The construction of our design is a little different to give us that extra capacity. So one of the things I talked about yesterday was it's a composite plate trailer with a smooth wall inside and a smooth wall outside compared to, I'm going to call it the norm, which is a corrugated steel design. So that, there's some aerodynamic deficiencies to that design, but also the space that we're talking about. So to Pat's point, I think depending on use case, that could be quite attractive to certain customers. So a big part of what we're trying to do is not re-enter the domestic market with a bit of a Me Too product. We want to take something that's a little bit more germane to our design coming from our dry van lineage, bring it to market from a container standpoint, and give the market something a bit different that's better. So we're really trying to stand out on our product advantages as much as our domestic source.
Right. Very good. And of course, another key consideration for manufacturing this piece of equipment, as you mentioned earlier, is durability. Corrosion is a huge issue in the transportation industry. It's a real issue for equipment maintenance. Ease of repair is another factor that can really affect your total cost of operation, your return on investment in a piece of equipment like this. Just tell us a bit more about how you've designed this 53-foot container to withstand the rigors of intermodal operations and also reduce those repair costs for customers.
Yeah, so there's 2 things, Seth, and great question. The first I'm going to touch on is galvanization. And when I say galvanization, I'm talking about critical components that are on this container that typically are painted. With our new design, will be galvanized. It's a key part of our vertical integration strategy and our value proposition, but galvanization is a coating that has a much better corrosion resistance over the lifetime of the product. So if you look at the substructure, if you look at the rear frame, if you look at the stacking posts, if you look at the header, those are all galvanized on our product, whereas they're typically painted in the current state of the environment. So I'd say that's one very big advantage. And if we spend some time in the market, Pat and I and others, and you can see these older containers that are painted in the areas I mentioned. You see degradation, you see rust, you see deterioration over time, and we feel like the galvanization offers a better product in that regard. In terms of the second point around repairability, this is one of the things we're most excited about. as I mentioned, our dry van lineage and history is one of it's probably the best way that Stoughton is known in the industry. Okay.
Sure.
So the composite plate design offers customers the ability, when damage does occur, and these products are damaged over their life, you can take a plate out and put a new plate in easily. They're typically 48-inch or 24-inch or 16-inch panels, rivet in, rivet out, as opposed to welding out sections, which can be difficult depending on where these are at in the market. So we think the combination of those two attributes to this product, along with the domestic sourcing, will make it a pretty interesting value proposition for our customers.
Yeah.
We also feel that will drastically reduce the lifetime cost of ownership of the container. If we can get around and our hands around lowering that maintenance cost,
Yep.
it's added value to the customer.
Yeah, that's a huge variable in that equation when you try to figure out the true cost of ownership, for sure. And we spent a lot of time talking about the container, but of course there's also a chassis here. And in addition to this new container you introduced, you also showed your next generation smart chassis at the show at IANA. This is pretty unique collection of sensors and connected asset technologies, as well as this really interesting auto coupling system with Electrans. So this is a system's called Auto Connect, and it automatically couples the truck and chassis, air, electrical, and communication lines. So this is done in 7 seconds. Driver doesn't need to leave the cab. An example here, of course, is it was a terminal tractor, actually equipped with some autonomous driving capabilities. This is an example of how you can start to get toward a more automated future in the industry, but you need all these pieces to fit together. And here's an example of how you could prepare a chassis to interplay with some of the technology developers that are out there on working on some of the automation. Just tell us a bit more. I'm going to start with that auto coupling system. Tell us a bit more about how it works and how this can streamline operations, yard operations in particular, and save time and for the drivers as well.
Yeah, so the path to autonomy requires work with the truck and the trailer, right? They have to be in sync with each other, they have to communicate with each other, and ultimately they have to work together without the intervention of a person. If you think about where this industry really wants to go into the future, we developed at Stoughton Trailers a system that's patented that allows the quick interface, the Auto Connect interface, working with Electrans between the truck and the trailer without a driver. It can also be used with a driver, though, so I think there's advantages both ways because we're looking at several steps of autonomy into the future. That allows for the quick connect of air, electrical, and the data connectivity, if you will. And once you have that, now you've got a system. Now you've got the marriage of the truck and trailer where there's communication, and you can put all sorts of sensors, the things that we showed yesterday. It can be as simple as advanced maintenance understanding, or it can be as complex or sophisticated, I should say, as the system we showed yesterday. So the key, though, is the linkage. Without the linkage, you don't have the two systems talking to each other. And Stoughton Trailers brings a unique perspective to this intermodal industry because we're already working on that with some of our other products, our dry vans and refrigerated product. So we wanted to bring this to the intermodal space, and that's why you heard me talk yesterday about how confident I am that we're the right partner in this space because we're already doing it, right? We're bringing this technology. It's been proven. We think it's very applicable to the intermodal space. And this year was the right year, Pat, to bring it to the show, and we're very proud of it.
And with where we are in the industry as far as safety and liability, whether it's going to be used autonomously or we're going to put a driver in it, if you take human presence away from the operation of heavy equipment,
Sure.
loading dock, port, rail, and that driver never has to leave the cab, he won't fall off the catwalk, become injured, nobody will be hit or caught between the equipment as they're coupling and uncoupling. I think the advantages of that in the savings long run are equally as important as the autonomy.
Yeah, and I think there's this autonomous movement is a journey, right? There's going to be multiple steps. What we're seeing now, and I think in the shorter term, we're going to see like an autonomous yard, right? So you've got the truck and the trailer, the truck and the chassis, the truck and the container operating in a yard autonomously. But we all know that there's possibly a future that we're going to see an autonomous vehicle on the road. Truck and trailer, truck and chassis, truck and container. We tried to develop a system that can meet the needs now, but also be prepared for the future of autonomy, whatever that looks like. And this AutoConnect is really one of the enabling technologies, enabling innovations to move the journey forward.
Want to get more out of your heavy-duty repair shop? Full-Bay's shop efficiency software is here to make it happen. Track tech efficiency and see who's working on what and how long it's taking. Schedule preventive maintenance to ensure your customers' trucks are getting the service they need when they need it. You can also see what's going on with your inventory and how much you're spending on parts versus what you're bringing in. For more information, head to fullbay.com/transport.
And kind of zooming out a bit, of course, we've seen a great deal of investment over the years in smart trailers. That's nothing new. It's come a long way, though, right? It started with points on a dots on a map. Where's my trailer? Now more and more sensors on the dry-van and refrigerated trailers out there in the market. But now it's interesting at a show like this to see this kind of connectivity coming to intermodal chassis more and more as well. What benefits does an intermodal fleet gain from this type of smart chassis connectivity that's emerging and maybe a little bit behind what we see in other types of equipment? But do you eventually see this becoming just commonplace in the intermodal industry to have all these assets connected?
Yeah, you know what? It's interesting because the use case intermodally is somewhat different than maybe over-the-road tractor trailer. But there are some symmetry elements. One of the things I think about, and it was talked about in the general session yesterday, is how prevalent fraud is in this space, right? So the ability to detect cargo at all times in real time, I think, is tremendously valuable, right? As this product goes over rail, as this product sits in a dray yard, et cetera. So I think that's one element. I think the maintenance and repair connectivity is really important as well, because sometimes these assets sit and then they become very, very, very busy, and so they're not on a regular schedule in some cases. So understanding the maintenance aspect is important, and sometimes this may be surprising, but not all intermodal equipment even have GPS capability, right? So
that's right.
Many companies rely on kind of gate in, gate out to understand where this product is located. This connectivity now gives you more real time where's the product at, so you get a better sense of I'm going to call it asset utilization, asset efficiency, and so I think there's a lot of benefit that can come in this space that you can just kind of look over the fence at the over the road space, tractor and trailer, and kind of glean from.
Sure. And it might be helpful here just to go over some of the features on that smart chassis, everything from tire pressure monitoring and onboard cameras, some of the types of capabilities you can add as you have this piece of equipment more connected.
Sure. I think if we break that down, we can start with let's start with the predictive maintenance part. So we're going to monitor live time air pressures. We'll have wheel end temperatures monitored. These sensors can be picked up by the driver itself or centrally back through the company. That predictive maintenance part of it from an out-of-service standpoint is huge in catching something before it becomes a major repair and morphs into something much larger is really probably the best part of this technology. We're looking at FID readers that if the driver gets out of the truck to do an inspection, he can take his phone and scan the QR code. It's going to tell him live what the air pressures are, the temperatures, everything else. Can do that at an inspection station. It'll save them on the accuracy of their pre-trip inspections and things of that nature. We look at it from a safety standpoint, anti-roll stability, brake wear indicators, things of that nature. I think that's a quantum leap for where we are. You have to remember, chassis have always been the little brother or the tail end indicator of transportation platforms. With smart chassis, or smart trailers, it started with track and tracing, and it's just moved on from there. And if you think about in the short term with chassis, they're as basic as they could be. 10 years ago we had bias-ply tires and open wheels and incandescent lights, and we see how the quantum leap there. Efficiencies now is, where's the container, where's the chassis, is it mounted when I call for it, is it not mounted, is it full, what's the cargo volume of that. So the efficiency to our customers to utilize less equipment more efficiently is probably the heyday that we're looking at in this.
I think there's one more piece that, and Pat very well said, some of the users, some of the customers of this equipment, have varying types of products. So if you think about the ability to create commonization in your fleet, you don't want your intermodal equipment to behave at a third grade level and your over-the-road, maybe tractor and trailer equipment to be, in college, so to speak.
Yeah.
So to try to get everything at the same level so you can manage your fleet similarly is really important. And those are some of the benefits that we're trying to bring to this market.
Yeah, you talked earlier about designing this to handle today's demands, but also having that eye to the future. And as you think about a future with autonomous trucks, you also need smart trailers, smart chassis to connect with them to make it all work, for sure. A little separate note here, but also during the presentation, you mentioned that Stoughton's Intermodal chassis also received this award from the IIHS, that's the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, for rear underride crash protection. So this is the first time, again, this is pretty common in dry van now, you already have that certification there, but this is the first time an intermodal container chassis received that Tough Guard award from IIHS. So just tell us about the significance here for safety in intermodal operations.
Yeah, we're very proud and excited to have achieved this recognition and certification, and immediately upon receiving certification, we made that standard feature for all 53-foot chassis from basically that day forward. It is about safety. It's about saving lives, and we put a lot of time and engineering and resources into making that happen because we feel like it's the right thing to do. To your point, we have that accreditation and certification on our other products, and we felt like we needed that in the intermodal space as well. So we've got that. We're proud to show that at the show, but we're also making available upfit kits for chassis that are on the road today, so that you can kind of put that same system in play on Stoughton chassis that were built, 2021 to now, so that you can get that safety for equipment that's on the road. It's all about safety. It's all about creating a safer environment for everyone on the highway.
Yeah, so standard on the new ones, and also available for kind of late models as an upfit for existing equipment out there. Gentlemen, before we wrap up here, I think we covered the highlights, but I'd like to just turn it over to any parting thoughts you'd like to share with our listeners about what you're doing in this intermodal space, or anything else you'd like to add to the conversation.
Yeah, I think we're excited in bringing containers back into. We have a match platform now. We have a very weight efficient, strong chassis, probably the strongest in the industry. We now match it with a container, so that becomes a very viable supply chain option for our customers. It gives us efficiencies in manufacturing and designs that we really couldn't fully explore before.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, well said, Pat. We're proud to be here. This is a great show. It's always good to see our customers, our supply partners, and it takes a network of companies to bring this innovation to market. I'd also say that, it's been a tough few years in the transportation industry, but that has not in any way stopped Stoughton Trailers' investment into the future. And we feel like now's the time to be bullish, now's the time to move forward, now's the time to bring new technology. And our goal is to show well at this show, talk to you guys about what's going on, and we're excited. So thank you for having us.
Of course, I think that's a perfect stopping point right there. So thank you again, Jeremy and Pat, for joining the podcast and sharing your insights.
Yep. Thank you, Seth.
Before we close, let's take a moment to revisit our original question. What did IANA's Intermodal Expo reveal about the future of intermodal equipment? As we heard during this episode, durability, safety, and ease of repair remain paramount for intermodal containers, but there's also still room to squeeze more payload capacity out of these assets. At the same time, connectivity is set to expand in intermodal operations, with more sensors and data available for the chassis. And automated coupling capabilities illustrate how autonomous tractors could interact with intermodal equipment in the years ahead. If you've enjoyed this episode of Road Signs, please let others know. Rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If my questions have sparked questions of your own, share them with me and the RoadSigns team. You can email us at share@ttnews.com. Also, let us know how we did by texting TT Survey to 571-622-0001. And of course, we'll be back soon with a fresh episode of RoadSigns. Until then, I'm Seth Clevenger. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for joining us. RoadSigns is a Transport Topics production.